Welcome back. This lecture will be about policy. Traffic filtering is done in the filter table of the input chain for incoming traffic, of the output chain for outgoing traffic, and of the forward chain for routed traffic. Rules are added to chains and tables and traversed in order from top to bottom by the packets. Each packet is then checked against each rule in turn, starting at the top. If it matches the rule, then an action is taken, such as accepting or dropping the packet. Once a rule has been matched and an action taken, the packet is processed according to the target of that rule and isn't processed by further rules in the chain. Now, if a packet passes down through all the rules in the chain and reaches the bottom without being matched against any rule, then the default policy for that chain is applied. The default action is referred to as the default policy and may be set to either accept or drop. The concept of default policies raises two possibilities that we must consider before deciding how we are going to organize the firewall. So when organizing our firewall, we should have the following options in mind. We can set the default policy to drop all packets and then add rules to specifically allow packets that may be from trusted IP addresses or for certain ports on which we have services running like FTP, web, email, and so on. Or the second possibility, we can set the default policy to accept all packets and then add rules to specifically block or drop packets that may be from specific IP addresses or ranges or for certain ports on which we have private services. Generally, the first option is used at least for the input chain and is considered more secure. By default, policy is set to accept any packet that hasn't been dropped by any rule. Policy can be changed for chains that have the filter table and they are input, output, and forward. We cannot change the policy for pre-routing or post-routing chains. Let's take a look at some examples. We can check the policy by listing the firewall iptables -vnl. This is the default firewall for a Linux operating system. We see the default policy is accept for input, output, and forward chains. Note that there is no rule in the chains, so all traffic is permitted. Now, I'll continuously ping this Linux and also check the SSH connection. Ping and the IP address of Linux 1. Ping is working. And now SSH. SSH is working too. Both incoming ping and SSH are working. Now if I set the policy to drop on input chain, all the traffic will be dropped. There is no rule that accepts traffic, so all traffic is dropped. iptables -p, an uppercase P, input drop. This is how we set the policy. We see that the policy is dropped, and it has already dropped 4 packets. Ping has stopped. It doesn't work anymore. Setting the drop policy on input chain without any rule that accepts traffic, it's like I've logically disconnected the host from the network. Now I'll add a rule that allows incoming SSH traffic. The input chain is incoming traffic, the protocol is TCP, the destination port 22, -J, the target, is accept. Let's try to connect using SSH again. And it's working. We notice how SSH client can connect to the server again. The SSH traffic is permitted by this rule. But what about ping? Ping is still not working. Ping packets are dropped by the policy. There are 15 packets dropped. Now there are 19 packets, 22 packets, and so on. Ping is continuously sending packets to Linux One. If I want to permit incoming ICMP ping packets, I should add a rule that accepts that traffic. Also note that policy is always at the end of the chain. It's not possible to add rules that match against packets after the policy. At the end of this lecture, I'd like to tell you something important. Take care when changing the policy on remote servers. There is always the possibility to block yourself from accessing the server anymore. First, be sure that you've added a rule that allows your own traffic, and only then change the default policy. Keep this in mind.